Story 1. I've had this fantasy for years. It's going to be drug money. I'd put it in a different container, then make sure there's no tracking device in the stacks. Spend it wisely. Story 2. I am not going to believe there is no one around and leave it. Honestly, I am not a person who is going to open a random suitcase in the middle of nowhere. So, I do not think this is a dilemma I am ever going to face. Story 3. I wouldn't even know the money is in there. If I found a briefcase in front of my door, I'm calling the police to come over, bring a robot, and open that up someplace else. Story 4. I'm surprised at the number of people saying they would take it home. I would put it in my car, go somewhere to buy a container, transfer it over somewhere secluded, then take it home. Story 5. Okay, first I would probably just stand there for a good 5 minutes, convincing myself I am not in some weird dream or a crime movie. Then, I would open it like the world's most intense game of what's in the box, and immediately start trying to figure out if I can take it without being arrested. I would call a friend to make sure I am not losing my mind or getting arrested, but I would probably whisper it like it is some big secret. Then I would start wondering if it is too much to just slightly take a few $100. But let us be real, I would end up thinking of all the places to hide it and accidentally knocking over the suitcase in the process. Also, do I call the police? Do I become a supervillain? I am just saying, I would definitely spend way too long thinking about it and possibly end up with nothing but an existential crisis. Story 6. I would call the police and hand it over, make sure that it was public knowledge that I did not have the money, and spend a few sleepless nights worrying that the criminals involved might still choose to take their frustration out on me. Story 7. This actually happened to me and a friend when we were around 8 to 9 years old. We were on the mountain for ski camp, so not on holidays. After every dinner, teachers gave us a few hours of free time to go sledding and play in the snow with camp guides. One of those days, my friend and I were falling behind the group because we used to stop and stare at the fancy cars in front of a very expensive hotel on the way to the village center. All of a sudden, we spotted a black suitcase between two cars on the ground. We sneaked near the suitcase, and of course it was locked with a code. My friend was trying to open it, and I said we are probably already on camera, so let's just give it to the reception inside. At that exact moment, my friend managed to open it using the secret 0000 technique, and we both froze as the suitcase was just filled with stacks of money. There was no one around because of the cold. Even valets were in their cabin near the hotel entrance. We locked it back immediately and delivered it to the receptionist. Sorry for the ending, but we just couldn't get tempted at that age. We got super scared. She made us sit near her desk and said we needed to wait for her to come back, as they needed to contact the owner. While waiting, I remember us discussing if they knew exactly how much was in there, if they would notice if we took 1 or 2 bills, if they would detect if it was open somehow because we didn't leave the code as it was when we found it, if the camera saw us opening it, or what if, when we opened it, a huge wind would hit us and all the money would fly around. We wondered if someone else already got to the suitcase before us and stole some of it, and we would be blamed for the crime, or if the receptionist lady just stole the suitcase and left us there. Anyway, the owner was super chill. He gave us, I think, like $50 or $100, which was a lot of money for 8-year-old standards. Back then, one would die from eating $1 worth of ice cream. So we went sledding with the others, played PlayStation and arcade games all evening. The guy also said if we were a little older, he would give us way more to enjoy the entire weekend doing crazy things, which he knew we couldn't even imagine at that age. Story 8. Dumping it into one of the shopping bags in my truck, ditching the briefcase, and going home. I would then spend a lot of time trying to figure out how I can invest it. Story 9. I would bring it to the police. My country has a mandatory payout for finders in the line of 3% of the total, so I would still net $30,000 out of it. In the current day and age, I do not trust that there is not some kind of GPS sensing or camera watching me, so I would rather go the route of not implicating myself. While 1 million would truly be life-changing, I am comfortable enough in my life so as to not risk it for $1 million. Story 10. Reread the book, A Simple Plan, and then watch the movie version as a reminder of what not to do. I swear, that was the most frustrating book I ever read. I was so mad at the end of it. Story 11. I would put about $10,000 in my pocket and carry the rest to my car or whatever and bring it home. I have a safe at home. If someone says they dropped it, at least I get to keep what I put in my pocket already. Story 12. As a kid, when my mom would quietly walk into the room and, instead of waking me up, whisper, "It snowed, schools are closed, go back to sleep," the content feeling of drifting back off and knowing what a fun day of sledding and snowball fights lay ahead was easily the best feeling in the world. Story 13. I would probably sit on it for a few years. If someone shows up asking for it, I would give it to them. If I can figure out a way to get interest payment out of it, I would probably never touch the principal amount. Story 14. Probably buy a fake identity on the black market, make a bank account for that identity, transfer it to some really cheap and efficient cryptocurrency, move it around a few times, then buy Bitcoin and leave it there. If I ever need or want money, I'll just transfer some Bitcoin to a personal wallet and get the cash from that. I don't know, I'm not great at laundering money or anything, but cryptocurrency seems like the best place to somewhat clean money without drawing too much attention. Story 15. Remove the money and leave the case. Take the money to a new location unaffiliated with me. Using gloves and a clear plastic bag, I would skim through all of it, making sure it is all actually money and no trackers or die packs. Once I have determined it is all money, I would place it in a new bag and then store it somewhere secure like a safe deposit box and do nothing with it for a year. If no one comes looking for it in that time, then I would consider it safe to use. How I would use it, I have no idea. I can spend it on cash purchases, but anything small enough to not raise its own flags will take longer than the rest of my life to spend that way. Story 16. Call the police and register me as the finder. In any case, the money is out of my hands. If someone legitimately lost it, they'll come to the police and claim it. I get some low percentage finder's fee legally, which of $1 million is already decent, and whoever owns it is happy. I don't want to steal stuff that someone else owns. This includes mysteriously found millions. If no one claims it, whether it's illegal or no one knows it's there is some legal waiting time and then it's actually mine. As soon as it's legally mine, I spend enough and give some to charity because it was free money anyway, so whatever criminal thinks they own it cannot get the massive bulk from me anymore because it's gone. The rest goes in an exchange-traded fund. Story 17. Well, after watching No Country for Old Men for the 10th time or so, love that movie, I would search through all the bills for the tracking device. Then, I guess I would buy a fireproof safe and start paying for things with cash forever. Story 18. Shut off the phone and hope to God there was enough cell traffic that my phone doesn't stand out like a beacon. Put on my work gloves. Grab the suitcase and dump cash in the vehicle. Drive on my way to find a truck stop. And at the nearest abandoned farm, home, or old business, throw the suitcase inside or nearby. Drive speedily in the opposite direction of where I live. Within 50 miles, I'll find a truck stop. Using the cash, I'll buy a duffel bag or suitcase or two, aluminum foil. Store money, wrap in foil, and drive north. In a metropolitan area, I go through the money, checking for tracking devices. Go home. Get a new phone. My phone being on at the time of finding money isn't going to burn me. Readjust my retirement contributions to the maximum. Use the cash to supplement my life. All entertainment, food, and fuel are paid in cash. This change should not cause any red flags to arise from the Internal Revenue Service or any nosy neighbors. $1 million in cash is what equivalent to $1.4 million before tax. I plan on retiring in 12 years or so. Spending $25,000 to $30,000 a year keeps my lifestyle amazing, the same as it is now. Allows me to use my current wages to become 100% debt-free and even better invest in my retirement without anyone knowing. This exercise makes it very apparent why the government wants to go digital. This is a difficult thing to plan for, to not draw attention to anything. Story 19. Risk it all. Take out $10,000. Go to the store. Buy garbage bags and lighter fluid. Go to the gun store. Buy a gun. Return to the suitcase. Remove all but $10,000. Burn the case. Split the rest into piles of $100,000. Hide them. Wait. Return with full hobo disguise on a bicycle to collect the bags. 1 per month. Place them into a safety deposit box. Make withdrawals $5,000 at a time. Go to work. Spend cash at the grocery store, restaurants, and gas stations. Save legal money. Make a down payment on a house. Hide money in the house. Buy an assault rifle. Eat food and masturbate a lot. Story 20. Call the police, turn it in. It might be stolen, it might be marked. It might have a tracking device in the suitcase. I'm not going to get caught doing anything other than the right thing. Too much at stake. Story 21. Pick it up, go home, and immediately start spending it on the necessary things that I have to, and invest the rest in some kind of business or open up a small business to run. Story 22. Probably panic first, then spend the next hour convincing myself that it is a setup or drug money. Eventually, I would settle on calling a lawyer before touching a dime. Story 23. I would do the right thing and see about returning the $750,000 I had found. Otherwise, ethically, I do not feel I would be able to feel good about not locating the rightful owner, obviously legal, of the full $500,000. I mean, it is the right thing to do, right? Story 24. First, I would check for any identifying information or clues about the owner, because even though it is a fantasy scenario, doing the right thing matters. If there are no leads, I would turn it in to the police or find a way to report it, ensuring it is handled legally. Story 25. Take it, deposit in a high-yield savings account or purchase dividend-paying stocks. If I have to give it back, hopefully I will have had enough time to make some money from it. Story 26. I would check if there is a reward before bringing it to the police. I would take pictures of where I found it too. It could be from a crime, so the bill numbers might be recorded somewhere, and when the bills start being used, they will come after you. It would be great to find that much, but not worth the hassle of spending it and possibly going to jail or something. I am not sure if it is illegal to spend the money, but I will not take chances. Story 27. Remove most of the cash but leave a few wet bills in it, 20,000, and set fire to the whole thing somewhere. It gets found and assumed the money has gone up in flames. The wet bills should at least leave some remnants, so no one is looking for it. Then I would break the cash up into 100,000 lots and bury them inside waterproof cases at places they would never be found by anyone else. Every 6 months, I would pull up a case and spend the cash discreetly, including buying gifts for people I love and making casual reference to having done well with cryptocurrency. For every dollar I spent, I would give $1 to charity for the karma. Story 28. I would probably scope the place out for a few hours. Then, if I did not see anyone around, I would take the suitcase. I would tell my wife to go stay with her mother while I take a taxi to a motel and hide the suitcase in the air duct. I would then rent a second room in the motel that shares the same air duct and stake out the room. When it appears I have been found out, I would retrieve the briefcase and run. At this point, I will be shot at repeatedly by a shadowy figure and, upon commandeering a nearby truck, I would flee to Mexico, badly wounded. After taking some of the money for petty expenses, I would toss the suitcase over the fence into a ravine next to the Mexican border. After entering Mexico and getting patched up, I would tell the shadowy figure to leave me alone over the phone. Then I would retrieve the suitcase and return to the United States, where I would be tragically killed by Mexican cartel members at an El Paso motel. Story 29. That amount is worth it for me to roll the dice on getting prison time for taking it over, turning it in. As long as it wasn't sitting by a bank, I'm taking the case, emptying it into one of my own bags, and tossing the original container. I have a fireproof gun safe bolted into concrete at my house. The cash will go in there. Then I'm going to open a limited liability company under the guise of a construction consultation company, and I'm going to slowly deposit the cash over the course of 2 years or so, and pay taxes on it as business income. Story 30. Take every single dollar out of that suitcase and throw the suitcase in the nearest river. I need to make sure a psychotic assassin with a silenced shotgun doesn't find me. Then sit on the money for a while. Story 31. It's so interesting that you ask this because Japanese people leave huge bags of cash, ranging from $10,000 to $100,000, in government office toilets with notes saying, "Please use this for the city." It's actually pretty common. Story 32. I would take the cash, leave the luggage, check the bills for trackers, and then leave it somewhere safe for a while. That way, I could see if someone was going to come looking for it and hopefully not get killed by a cartel or something. After about a year, I would start laundering it. Then I would move to Europe with my husband and start over. Story 33. Take it home. Divide it up into multiple weatherproof sealed boxes and bury them in the yard with a treasure map for my family. Dig them up as needed. Story 34. Take it, inspect the cash, and move it to another receptacle. Ditch the briefcase, hide the container at a particular trusted friend's place in his safe, park my car at the airport, and stay at a hotel for a few days. Go see some friends out of state in a rented car, fly home, and get a taxi home. Retrieve the cash, give my buddy a few thousand for his troubles, and consult a few lawyer and financial advisor friends who won't say anything on how to keep this anonymous gift. Alternatively, just keep the cash in a safety deposit box and let it be my source of fun money while keeping the difference from my day job unspent. Use those funds in a legitimate way to build up a nice nest egg for my wife and me. It wouldn't be the hardest thing in the world to launder that much without getting noticed, but it would take some work.